Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another Sunday School preview. We want to continue our look on Job, our series on Job. And I really do believe that you have been enjoying and you have been blessed and challenged by this series. This week, as we look on the upcoming lesson is entitled Job Proclaims His Integrity. Job proclaims his integrity. And as you tackle this topic, this issue, you're going to be looking at Job's search for God. Now, in looking at Job's search for the Lord, you will be zooming in on Job chapter 23, verses 1 to 7. Just to give you a synopsis of what you'll be looking at this section of the lesson, you'll see in verse 1, the text says, "Then Job answered and said, even today is my complaint bitter. My stroke is heavier than my groaning. Oh, that I knew where I might find him, that I might come even to his seat. I would order my cause before him and fill my mouth with arguments. I would know the words which I would answer me, or I would know the words which he would answer me, and understand what he would say unto me." Now, just looking at these few verses, you realize that Job is complaining to God. Of course, he never curses God, but here he's complaining to God, and he's saying, I wish I could find him. I wish I could, in a sense, he was saying, I wish I could have a seat with him. I wish I could have a meeting with God, that I may just tell him what I'm going through. Of course, in a sense, Job was poetically articulating his feelings, his disappointment, his hurt. He was expressing with figurative language how he felt. Of course, he knew God was hearing him, but he was just expressing himself, being cornered by his so-called friends. And so he's saying, I wish I could find God. I wish I could just sit down with him and plead with him and just talk with him. And of course, sometimes we feel this way. We feel that God is far from us. But that was the human aspect of Job. And of course, sometimes we find ourselves there. So very important, very interesting words here from Job that probably can help us to see that the biblical people, the people in the Bible, they had real sufferings, they had real questions, they had real issues. Secondly, you will be looking at Job retaining his integrity. He retained his integrity. And hear what verse 10 of the text says. "But he knoweth," this is Job continuing to speak. Job says, "But he knoweth the way that I take. When he had tried me, I shall come forth as pure gold. My foot hath held the steps, or his steps. His way have I kept, and not declined. Neither have I gone back from the commandments of his lips. I have esteemed the words of his mouth more than my necessary food." Here, Job, of course, he is expressing again his grief, his feelings, his dismay, and he is defending himself. He's defending his integrity. He's defending his innocence, and he's saying, when God has tried me, I'm going to come forth as pure gold. Of course, his friends were listening to him. They were all telling him that, Job, you have sinned. That is why you are in this. That's why you are in this position because you have fallen short, because you have sinned. But Job was saying, no, no, no. If God should try me now, I'm going to come out as pure gold. I am going to come out and you're going to see that I am innocent. Now, I won't go too deep into it because you'll be looking into the text and the commentary by yourselves with the guide of your teacher. But finally, Job accepts the ways of God. So Job says in verse 13, but he is in one mind, and who can turn him? And what his soul desireth, even that he doeth, for he performeth the thing that is appointed for me, and many such things are with him. So Job, despite his grieving, despite his complaints, Job is saying God is suffering. God is suffering. Job is saying that he has one mind, and whatever he decides to do, that is what he's going to do. Whatever his soul desireth to do, which is of course a strange language to use to describe God. But whatever God decides, that's what he is going to do. For he performeth the thing that is appointed for me. And so Job was saying, this is in the plan of the Lord. It's difficult, it's rough, it is tough, but it is the Lord's doing. It is the Lord's doing. And what he's doing here, the story does not end here, but what you are seeing is a man that understands that comes what may, God is in control. And if you may seek to apply this a little bit to your own lives, you can say whatever you may be going through, whatever you may be experiencing, good or bad, God is in control. And whatever the righteous experiences, it is of course for the greater good, no matter how it may feel and no matter what you may or may not be able to see in the moment. For Job, this might have been a very difficult thing to say, but he knew God prior to his struggles. And here in the midst of his struggles, he's saying, God decided it. I'm going to accept it because he is God, he is sovereign. And in a sense, we can conclude God knows what he is doing. The story continues, but I want you to go to Sunday school, dive into this powerful lesson, and I believe it will touch your lives. God bless you.